Good morning, everyone, and Shabbat Shalom. In this week's Torah portion, amongst the descriptions of some of the horrors that will befall the Jewish people throughout the long exiles, the Torah says, you will be like a blind person groping in broad daylight. And the Talmud says that Rabbi Yossi said, I don't understand this verse. If the Torah says you will be like a blind person groping, why does it say in broad daylight? What difference does it make to the blind person if it's midnight or midday? Either way, unfortunately, the blind person is in darkness. So why does the Torah emphasize you'll be like a blind person groping in darkness in broad daylight? Rabbi Yossi says one night he was walking through the forest. It was pitch dark, and he saw a man walking with a lantern towards him. But when he got closer, he saw that the person carrying the lantern was blind. So he said to him, tell me, if you're blind, why are you carrying a lantern? And the man said to him, I carry the lantern so others can see me and help lead me on the proper path. And he said, now I understood what the verse says. You see, when a blind person gropes in broad daylight, others can see the blind person and offer assistance and help him on his path. But when you are like a blind person groping in darkness, and there is no broad daylight, there's nobody assisting you, then it's a dual darkness, because you're within your own internal darkness, and all around you it's a state of darkness because no one is there to assist you. And what this verse is teaching us is the most important lesson in life, which is empathy. There are people all around us who are groping in darkness. It may not be physical darkness. It could be emotional, psychological, spiritual. But the greater tragedy is when they're groping in darkness and it's in broad daylight, but yet nobody is there to assist them in their darkness. And I recall when I went to Israel a number of years ago, we went to an amazing museum called the Blind Museum, where for 90 minutes you experience complete and utter darkness. You do all sorts of activities like shopping in the shuk, eating in a cafeteria, listening to music in a concert hall, and you do it all in darkness with a blind tour guide. And after 90 minutes you emerge and you meet your tour guide for the first time, that you get to see him, a man who lives in darkness his whole life and functions as a normal person despite his handicap, despite his disability. And I remember feeling two very powerful emotions. One was gratitude that I can see, thank God, after 90 minutes in darkness. But the second emotion I felt was tremendous empathy for those who live in darkness. I never appreciated being able to see like after that 90-minute tour of the Dark Blind Museum. I never appreciated the morning blessing, blessed are you God, Pokeach Ivrim, who opens the eyes of the blind every morning. And that's the message of the Torah, to always feel empathy for others and assist others. Sometimes our lives can be, in one regard or another, blessed to the extent that we become immune to the suffering and the pain of others. The Torah says never allow that to happen. You know, the high holidays are coming, and Rosh Hashanah we dip the apple in the honey, but then comes Yom Kippur, and for 25 hours we don't eat and we don't drink. And of course it's difficult, and many people dread it because it's a challenge. But we should see it as an opportunity to learn the lesson of empathy. There are people who go hungry, not just on Yom Kippur, but every single day. Indeed, I remember once hearing about a rabbi who would make his annual appeal in the synagogue for the poor and needy right before the blowing of the shofar at the end of Yom Kippur. And he would get up in front of the congregation and say, now that you haven't eaten for 25 hours, now's the time that I want to ask you to give charity for the poor and needy, because you could feel the pain of hunger that the poor people feel each and every day. Tell a story about the Chafetz Chaim. He once came to a rich man's house. He was raising money for firewood in the cold winter in Poland for the poor people in the neighborhood. And the rich man opened the doors, a freezing, bitter, cold winter night in Poland. And he said, "Come on in, Rabbi." And the rabbi stood there with his boots and his coat and his hat and his scarf. He said, "No, I need to talk to you right here." The man was shuddering. He was shivering. He said, "Okay, tell me what you need." And he said, "I'm raising money for the poor people who need money for firewood to warm their homes." And the man says, "Sure." And he told him what he's going to give to contribute. And then he said to the rabbi, "Rabbi, why wouldn't you come in and we could have discussed this in my living room?" And the Chafetz Chaim said, "Sitting on your beautiful couch, on your beautiful rugs, next to your warm fireplace, sipping a hot tea, you would never understand the plight of the poor people who go to sleep cold every night. I wanted to talk to you outside where you could feel the cold that the poor people feel every day." That's the message of this week's Torah portion. When you see a blind person, in whichever regard, make sure that they do not walk alone in their loneliness and blindness. Have a wonderful day.